Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Well, check out Deal to Heal Teas. With our inspirational teas, you're sure to find something that will inspire you. Just go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. That's Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. That's Deal to Heal Teas at dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Hey guys, this is Earnest James, host of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, and I got a question to ask you. Could you buy me a cheeseburger? Better yet, could you buy me a value meal? Yes? Well, guess what? I don't need a value meal. However, for the cost of a value meal, you can support this podcast to keep us on the air. Just go to Patreon/Deal to Heal podcast and choose any one of the 3 tiers that's available. And if you just want to make a one-time donation, go to Cash App and make a donation to $EJames, the number 418. Make a one-time donation to the Cash App, or again, go to Patreon to support this podcast and keep us on the air. Thanks in advance. Be blessed. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I'm your host, Earnest James, and I believe that everyone can live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Let's deal with your problems, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks again for once again for everybody for tuning in, for joining us this evening. If you haven't already, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share to our podcast. Definitely on our YouTube. We want to get that up on Spotify. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. All your major social media platforms we are on. So make sure that you guys are subscribed to us so you don't miss a show. Also, give us a rating that'll help us get our numbers up and get ourselves going, and let us know how you feel. How you think we're doing. We're doing a good job, bad job, whatever. I don't take it personal. I welcome all feedback. All right. So again, thank you guys for joining us to the Deal to Heal podcast. And today, just like any other day, we are blessed with a guest, Mr. Michael. How are you doing?
I am doing amazing.
Good. First of all, let me say thank you very much for being on. You could have been doing anything else, but you took out time to be here with me and my listeners, and I definitely appreciate it. And we're going to jump right in. So, Mr. Michael, tell us exactly who you are and what it is that you do.
Well, who I am now from where I was before, as I am now a trained and certified peer support specialist and care coordinator. I work for a Westchester hospital called St. Vincent's Psychiatric Hospital. And I am also a professional, motivational, inspirational, memorable, relatable mental health keynote speaker, performer, advocate, and stand-up comedian, helping everybody with their mental health and so much more.
You said a mouthful right there. You said a mouthful, but you hit on a couple of things that I like, and so I came across your platform. I think it was sometime last year, and I think it was of a video that I seen from I think it's Gold Coast or something like that.
Goldcast.
Goldcast. Yeah. And they was kind of sharing your story about your I guess you're speaking, just your program in general that you have, and I was very intrigued by it, and for two reasons. One, I love the story, number one, and then the second one part was it reminded me of someone who I believe you were very endured to, and that was Robin Williams. Because
Mm.
I grew up on Robin Williams way back in Mark and Mindy days. I remember him from way back then, and grew with him as he grew in his career. Someone I was definitely a big fan of, and also was hurt, with the way that his life ended, and just that whole journey, which is a story within itself. And which why I connected with him, I connected with you, because that story and the projection of his life and his career, rather, but then also dealing with the mental health and the things that he had along the way, it kind of shows us that, first of all, it can be anybody, any of us, and all of us, including myself, have dealt with some things, and that, but we'll get more into that. So, Michael, if you don't mind, just let's go back sort of to the beginning, I guess you would say. So before you were who you are now, in the beginning when you were dealing with your mental health issues or whatever you were dealing with. Let's go back there and kind of start there with your story of just who you were then and the things that you were dealing with, so that we kind of get an understanding and connection with the audience who may be dealing with some of the same things.
Well, I'll do the clip notes for you. The clip notes for you, Ernest, is that it really all started when I was around 5 or 6 years old. I used to stutter and had a lisp. And when you're 5 or 6 years old, people are making fun of you.
Yeah.
And that's where I didn't even know what bullying was all about when you're 5 or 6 years old. So I learned about a little trauma that people were making fun of me because I didn't speak properly because I had a lisp and a stutter. That got taken care of. So I had a normal childhood. That was fine. And then basically everything was fine until we get up to about high school. And when you're in high school and you're 16, what are you normally looking to do when you're 16? Is what? Drive a car and what? And go pass your road test, right? So I took my road test and I failed it once, failed it twice, failed it 3 different times. And when you fail your road test 3 times, then you're really not able to really go and associate with people, because the first words out of all my friends' mouth is, "Did you pass your road test? And what kind of car you drive?" And I couldn't really answer that. So I felt like a loser. I had self-esteem issues. That is where I started to suffer, and I call it suffering in silence with my mental health condition. Started at the age of 16. And that really was the thing, because I wasn't going to parties. I was doing what people were doing during the pandemic, which is called isolate. Isolation is one of the most prevalent thing that people deal with their mental health. Now, during that time, so I suffered on and off with my mental health condition. I call it, and I don't call it mental illness. I don't like the word illness. I like to call it, from my good friend, Dr. Rob Kelly, it's either a mental health injury, mental health challenge, mental health condition, which is better than saying the word illness. So I suffered on and off for about 25 years. I was in the mortgage industry. I was making a lot of money. And you can say, Ernest, if you make a lot of money, how can you suffer with a mental health condition? Yeah, it does not discriminate if you make money or if you have no job or you're homeless or you're the biggest billionaire in the world. It doesn't discriminate. And we get into Robin in a minute, Robin Williams. But so I went for those 25 years of suffering in silence. I did not come out of the mental health closet until I was married with 2 young kids. And unfortunately, I had a wife, now a ex-wife, that basically did not support me. She did not believe that I had a mental health condition, which is basically the brain, remember? So what happened is I suffered so much with my marriage after the 5 years, which was okay, and verbal abuse all that stuff, and dealing on and off with my mental health condition, and being a commissioned sales rep, it's a tough job when you finally get diagnosed. After those 25 years, I went out of the mental health closet. I got diagnosed as depression/bipolar. So I did have a diagnosis, and I started to say that is who I was. And that's the problem, where a lot of people might have depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, whatever's going on, and they start using that label that that's who they are. And I'll tell you later on, that's not who you are. You might have something, but there's so many strengths inside your body. So we go for the 25 years of suffering in silence. I was in the mental health. I was in the mortgage industry, and I dominated, made a lot of money, a lot of money. Even that in 2003, I made almost $500,000. Follow me here. I made almost $500,000, Ernest, and I'm still dealing with depression. Yeah. And then 5 years later to the day, this is after I came out of the mental health closet in 2008, January 2nd, 2008, I tried to take my life. And that's 5 years later. So what led up to that? And then for those years of the 15 years of suffering, not in silence anymore, but suffering with my mental health condition, which I came out of the closet after 25 years, it was a total of 40 years on and off of suffering and suffering in silence with my mental health condition. And for the audience to understand what are some of the other symptoms besides isolation, I had anger. I had a lot of worry. I was very depressed, the most depressed that I've ever seen. I call it the ticking time bomb. I even have one here that you can feel great, and then all of a sudden, in a couple of minutes, bang, the ticking time bomb goes off, and you're sick again. And then you start feeling a little better, and then bang, the ticking time bomb goes off. So these are the signs. I use a lot of props that I'll get into in my workshop, but that's how I felt. I couldn't continue. I couldn't get and stay mentally well, Ernest. So I suffered in silence for over 40 years with my mental health condition, came out of the closet after the 25, and I went and I did the triangle, which is what I recommend people to try first: the psychiatrist, the meds, and the talker. In my case, it was a therapist. So I was on that for 15 years, and I had these sadness, I had worry, I was doing this. This is called beating yourself up. I was no self-esteem. I put myself down, negative thoughts. These are just some of the symptoms that you go with when you're suffering with a mental health condition. And I went through so much, but the key was I couldn't get and stay mentally well during those 40 years. And that's really what one of the things that would happen at that particular time.
Wow. Yeah, and I resonate with some of your story, especially with the growing up myself. Excuse me. But I've come to be acceptable of my voice now, and most people say, "Oh, you got a nice voice" or whatever. But when I was younger, I had a real light voice. I still think it's light. Some people think it sounds okay, but I still like, it's a light voice. So I always get made fun of because my voice was so light, and which made me like, okay, I'm just gonna be quiet, and that way, if I don't say anything, then nobody will make fun of my voice. And so that with that same mindset, going through that puts me in my own sort of isolation, and now I'm sort of a loner. I got a big family, so that helped. And I did still have friends, in my life or whatever, but I still was self-conscious about my voice, even now, to get to the point now of even starting a podcast, and even being a speaker also, and even being a minister and preaching, that's using my voice. It is still was something that I still kind of dealt with, I think I'm more comfortable now, you know what I'm saying? Partly because I talk more now, and, I use a microphone, so I know they can hear me,
No, you have a nice voice. You do, Ernest. Have a nice voice.
Thank you. And so I'm a lot more comfortable of it now. But, like you, just having those things that you deal with as a child, and you can see how that plays out in your life. I didn't have a depression about it. I did deal with depression later on in my life, and even you mentioned suicide. I got to a point where I contemplated suicide. I didn't attempt it. Went through a deep depression after my mom passed away, and some other things happened. I talk about it all the time on the podcast, so they know my story. Yet and still, I like to definitely be open with myself, especially with my guests who also share their story, because I want people to be able to relate to us. We're just regular everyday people, and we're dealing with and have dealt with, and some of us like yourself has came out on the other side of some things. And one thing that I always say is that when we're going through something, God gives us the choice whether we're going to be a victim of that circumstance or we're going to be a victor of that circumstance. And those of us who come out on the other side as the victor, he then gives us the job to go back and help those that are still victimized by what we came out of. And so that's one of the things that I'm very glad, we're having you on, because you are an example of that, of going through some things and dealing with some things and then coming out on the other side and not just saying, yay, good for me, but then turning around and says, now let me go back and help those, who are still going through it. So I wanted to go back a little bit. And, we talked about the isolation and even this pandemic, and for some people, I'm sure this pandemic, what I'm saying, it just has been, I can't even imagine, especially those that are in dealing with isolation and dealing with depression, and then to be in a place where now you're like cut off from everybody, what I'm saying? So I can imagine how, it may have affected a lot of people. So in your experience and just with the people that you may have come across, during this pandemic, what is some of the things that, people are dealing with just as a result of being in this pandemic with their mental health?
Well, first of all, the mental health conditions, suicide, and opioid use and addiction have been skyrocketing. Okay, let's just get that out there. And the problem is, I wish our government can do more about it, and that's why I can't clone myself. I wish I can clone and have more of me going all over every state to do that, but I can't. I'm only one person. But the point is that this pandemic has made so many people lose their jobs, then stay in the same relationship together where people now are divorcing. There's so many things. And then people, they don't know what to do. So they'll just do more addiction, do more drugs, or you know what? I'm going to think about maybe even taking my life. And that is really one of the biggest things. We were having a pandemic, 2.5, and we need somebody like myself that, I haven't got to the good part yet. But the thing is, somebody that has been there and done it. So the thing is, for me, the most important thing, Ernest, is that the most important question is, what was it finally that got you to get and stay mentally well? And where did that come from? And I'll tell you exactly where it came from. Because if you look at me right now, can you tell that I've been in 6 psychiatric hospitals? Can you tell? Can you see the scars? Can you tell that I had 22 ECT treatments? That's when they shock your brain to make you feel better. Okay, 22. Can you tell? Can you tell that I was in 4 outpatient units? Can you tell that I had shingles on my face twice in 9 months? Okay, and can you tell that I had suicide thoughts all the time? And of course, had the suicide attempt in January 2nd, 2008. Can you tell? Because looks can be deceiving. And I come up with, which I'll tell in a second, by my speaking career, is to show them that, wow, look at this guy. I'm single, I'm hot, and you can't tell what was in the past for them and got me to stay mentally well. And that's the key. It's not about getting well. How do you stay mentally well? How do you stay suicide thoughts no more, or suicide attempts, no more, or get away from, no more addiction, no more drinking, no more drugs, no more opioid, no more alcohol. How do you stay? And then, of course, stay mentally well. So it was on August 11th, 2014, that something happened. And you know what happened on August 11th, 2014? A guy named Robin Williams did what he did. This is the picture I got from an artist from Florida who's amazing, and that is from the movie Patch Adams. And I'll get into that in a second. But when Robin Williams did what he did, now I am one of the biggest Robin Williams fans. I believe he's one of the most underrated actors that should have won so many more Oscars than just the one in Good Will Hunting when he won a supporting actor. That's number one. Number two, there was nobody in the planet that is improv comedian as good as Robin. Robin was the quickest you can ever get. I have a little bit of that in me, but I'll never be like Robin. I'm not looking to be like Robin, but Robin Williams was a genius. But we need to know the facts. Robin did what he did. It's not, yes, he suffered from drug and alcohol in the past, and he had, it was also depression. A lot of things were going on in his past, many different things, but it was Lewy body dementia. And I just saw a documentary. You got to, Robin's Wish. You got to watch it. It's an hour and 15 minutes. You'll learn more about Lewy body dementia. Because Lewy body dementia is things that your mind starts to hallucinate. You're not able to remember anymore. That's why he couldn't remember his lines he was doing the Night of the Museum sequels, and he couldn't remember things. And the director's saying, this is not Robin, but they all kept it to themselves. That was a mistake. They should have brought something out. Robin is not the same. Something is not right. And so when Robin was going through this Lewy body dementia stuff, he couldn't be Robin anymore. And on August 11, 2014, I call it suicide and Lewy body dementia took Robin Williams' life. I do not like to use committed suicide. I don't like that term. That's ridiculous. Like, oh, you know what? I'm going to commit suicide when I'm 55. What are you talking about? You're not going to commit. No. Suicide took somebody's life, and it took Robin's life. So when that happened, I lost it. And I got the sickest that I've ever got in my life with my depression, bipolar, you name it. 2 months later, I went into a psychiatric hospital, my 6-1, okay? They opened up a frequent flyer program for me. I'm just kidding. But the point was, I've been in 6 psychiatric, my 6-1, I went in, and I was depressed, the most depression I've ever been in my life, biggest fan of Robin. And when I went in, something changed. I don't know. You can call it divine intervention. You can call it an aha moment. I don't care, whatever you want to call it. When I went in there this time for the 6th time on October 16th, 2014, 7.5 years ago, I started to work on a workshop right in the back there called the 3 Amigos of Mental Health. And my job, number one, is how do I get rid of this terrible stigma of mental health conditions? Because that is what's one of the biggest problems in this world, and the word illness, as I said earlier. So I went and came out with a workshop while I was in a psychiatric hospital, and I was doing therapy for them, for the doctors, and I was teaching them about what I want to do: get rid of the stigma, having people open up. That's the key, and not like I suffered in silence for 25 years. Why didn't I come out of the closet earlier with my mental health and get people to tell their story, to open up and deal with acceptance that they have something going on with you? That's the key. Now, that's called strength, Ernest, when you do that. If you're in the Nile River, the Nile, and you're not going to come out of the mental health, addiction, suicide thoughts, whatever going on with you, then that's not strength. You're just going on and not working on a recovery plan. So that's also part of the workshop. The other part of the workshop that I came up with in a psychiatric hospital is was using things called a wellness toolbox to use the wellness tools. So what I started doing is meditation, deep breathing exercises, affirmations, a creed, God, Jesus, acupuncture, hypnosis, self-improvement tapes, Wayne Dyer, that you can self-improve yourself, Deepak Chopra, reading books like The Four Agreements, watching the great movie like Patch Adams, watching Good Will Hunting. And I came up with these unbelievable wellness tools that I get people to try with their, as I said earlier, the triangle. That's the psychiatrist, meds, and the talker, because that didn't get me to the promised land. So I came up with it, a to-do list, nutrition, good sleep. I can go on and on and on. And I send these wellness tools to people from my email to help them. So this is all being programmed in the hospital and then in the psychiatric hospital. And then I came up with more stuff during the last 7.5 years where I become a keynote and speaker and performer, and I speak everywhere. And what's my goal? My goal is to tell people that you can get mentally well. You can stay mentally well. If I could do it after 40 years of struggling for so long, so can you. Try the wellness toolbox. But of course, what's the biggest wellness tool of them all? Come on, Ernest, we know what it is. It's humor. Humor is the most important and the most important of all wellness toolbox. And it's because of laughter and smiles. And do you know why it's important to have humor in your mental and physical health? Well, a couple of reasons is you have the serotonins and the dopamines get to release from your brain. It's that happy feeling. You know, and some people laugh, you laugh. And then you have you have the endorphins that lift your mood, just to boost your immune system. It dulls and kills the pain. I understand if you're really suffering hard and someone tells you a joke, you might not laugh. I understand that. I've had those days that nothing's going to work. But try a little humor. It's contagious. It's good if you go for a job interview, as long as it's appropriate humor. It alleviates stress and anxiety. It's also a beauty enhancer. Look, just kidding on that one. But the point I'm making is that it's good for you. And I came up with, while I was in a psychiatric hospital, I came up with this. You see this? It's called bipolar mint gum. That's right. I have bipolar mint gum out there on the streets, and I throw this in the audience. Bipolar mint gum. So now you too can have the taste and the feel of having bipolar. But don't worry, each stick comes with free hospitalization, ECT treatments, and permission to run naked in your local shopping mall. I've done that 3 times. But I got schizophrenia mint gum coming out next week. What's the point? The point of the bipolar mint gum is about education and awareness. Have fun with your mental health. Don't make fun, have fun. I have no more, you ever hear of almond joy? I've never heard of it before. It's called mental joy, ladies and gentlemen. We have stress brains I throw in the audience. I make people have fun with their mental health, addiction, or suicide, and we talk about it. We share it. And the key is, and I say this all the time, I'm a relatable resource. Yes, I'm a trained and certified peer support specialist and care coordinator, work at a psychiatric hospital, and yes, I feel I'm a pretty decent speaker. But the point is, what am I trying to do? Yes, I want to help everybody with their mental health, addiction, and suicide to get the help they need. Maybe try some type of wellness tools, maybe use some type of humor. And these are the things to try to get you to stay mentally well, suicide-free, and addiction-free. That's the key. But what's the most important thing, why I'm doing this? If you say it's because of the money, wrong answer, Ernest. It's not about the money, ladies and gentlemen. The definition of success by Michael Weitzman, Bit Belong No Longer, and eventually I'll tell you a little bit about Mrs. Staying Alive. But it's all about what? Michael is using his life experiences, right? What are life experiences about? It's from your disappointments and all your struggles. And it's how you deal with them. Even it's on your title here, how you deal with things and work with things that they can become your amazing strength and incredible triumphs. And the most important thing that Michael Weitzman, Bit Belong No Longer, and Mrs. Staying Alive is doing is using my passion. Oh my God. You remember the movie When Harry Met Sally? You remember that movie?
Yeah.
Scene where the lady goes, I want what she has. Well, I don't want the big O. We're not talking about the big O here. We're talking about the big P. Yeah. And I'm talking the passion, ladies and gentlemen. I have passion that is coming through my body. I call myself, I am the virus you want inside your body. That's going to help your mind, your body, and your soul. That's going to go, I am contagious and I am infectious to help you with your mental health, addiction, and suicide. And it's all about using my passion in giving value and helping others. It's in the Bible. How may I serve? The Bible is a wellness tool. If you believe in God, it's a wellness tool. If you believe in Jesus, I'm a Jewish guy that believes in Jesus. Yeah, I go both ways in religion. So the point is, what is it about? Have fun. Whatever you're going through, get the help you need. I'm not saying don't work on a recovery plan. Of course, you got to work on a recovery plan. But while you go through that journey, and even if you're having bad days, try to dip yourself into this wellness toolbox, man. I can send you all these different wellness tools that I use. Oh my God, there's so many. Hypnosis is something you can try. You can do acupuncture. There's so many different things. I mean, in the books, like I said before, I would really read the 4 Agreements, man. Most amazing book. It's only 140 pages long. And it's all about what? About getting it's about don't take anything personally. Just like you started the show, if someone's going to make a review you don't like, don't take it personally. So I listen to you. Yeah, I'm becoming a good listener. So the point is, this is what it's all about. And the problem is called this. The problem we still have is people are still suffering in silence. They're not coming out of the mental health, addiction, or suicide closet. They're worried what other people are going to think and say. Could be the people they're living with, their family, the loved ones, their friends, the employers. It goes on and on and on. And that has to stop. Because the key is, and I say this all the time, it's not shame that you have something going on with you. Don't feel guilty that you have a mental health condition or addiction problem or suicide thoughts. And most importantly, from the movie Good Will Hunting that you've got to watch, from Robin Williams and Matt Damon, where he goes right to Matt Damon at the end, where he's a counselor for Matt, and he goes, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. He says it 10 times and breaks him, finally breaks him, and they hug, and he made that connection. And that's what I'm doing. I'm making this connection because it's not about Michael Weitzman anymore. It's about what is Michael Weitzman going to do to help others in this world? Because I've been to hell and back. And now I can educate people, even though I talk about bad things and my suicide and my suffering and all those things. I've got to the promised land now. Now I'm all about how I'm able to get and stay mentally well. For 7.5 years, I've never been this long being mentally well. I haven't had any bad days because I use what? The wellness tools from the wellness toolbox. Hello. So these are just some of the things that I've been working with. And humor is, I do a lot of stand-up comedy. I'm on so many podcasts and webinars, and I'm doing more seminars now. Remember a seminar? Remember those?
Yeah.
Hey, God. And then you're not going to believe this, Ernest. You're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe where I'm getting a lot of referrals. I'm getting referrals. I've been single now. I had a breakup 9 months ago. So most people have breakups to get, sad, depressed. I got so excited. I'm the most happiest man right now for 9 months. I tell you, man, the breakup was good for me. I lost 25 pounds. It's unbelievable. It's a new Weight Watchers program. Break up with your girlfriend and lose the 25 pounds. Just kidding. I'm making that up. But the point I'm making, Ernest, while I'm doing my improv, which is similar to Robin, is that there's so many things that you can do to work on your mental and physical health. And I'm just going out there doing God's work right now. And like I said, I have a great story. I'm working on my book. Someone might be doing a documentary on me. And I got to get to the masses. I need to be nationally and worldly known so I could be that person and say, wow, that guy helped me with my mental health. That guy helped me with my addiction. That guy helped me, or he helped my daughter, or helped my son. That feeling when someone says I helped somebody, that's the best feeling in the world. And I'm just being me, and I'm being relatable. So don't have that shame, ladies and gentlemen. Don't. Come out of the mental health closet, work on your recovery, find a good psychiatrist, find a good therapist, find a good medicine. But I'd like to know, you ever see this? You know the slogan of Lay's? You just can't have just one psychiatrist or one therapist or one type of medicine. It took me a long time to find the right combination. So don't give up if that psychiatrist didn't work, find another one. If that medicine didn't work, find another one. If a therapist doesn't work, find another one and try to get that combination. And then again, how many times am I going to say, try the wellness tools with your therapy, with your support? And what is one of the biggest things that I recommend in the wellness toolbox? You need support. You need support. I don't care whether it's from your girlfriend, your wife, your family, your friends, or you go to a support group. They have depression, bipolar groups. They have schizophrenia group. You go where people are just like you. Hey, you know what? You suffer from depression, bipolar, just like me, and we're normal. We are normal. We aren't our diagnosis, like in the movie Patch Adams. Same thing. Watch that movie. You'll think of me. And it's all about what? Getting rid of the stigma, dealing with acceptance and opening up, using wellness tools, and using what? Humor to as your biggest wellness tool to get and stay mentally well.
Man, Mike, drink some water, man. Take a prayer off, man. You said a whole lot, man. I love it. I love it. You hit on a lot of things that I definitely resonated with me, especially when I was going through my depression. And I'll share a little with you. I've shared it on the podcast a lot of times, but I was going through a divorce. I was in debt, which led me to go into depression. Then my mother-in-law at the time, who I was very close to, passed away. And then 3 years later, my mom passed away. And so with all those things, one after another, kind of, packed up on me, I went into a deep depression, and, it was kind of in this dark place. And I contemplated, committing suicide. And one of the things that I tell everyone, you have to find something or someone to live for. And that someone for me was my daughter, who was probably only like 7 at that time. And, at that time, my daughter was my shadow. Everywhere I go, she went, and it was like, that's your twin. Everybody would say, that's your twin and things like that. And she was always with me. And so it took me thinking of her, like, what is going to happen to her if I'm gone?
Yep.
She at that moment, she had already lost a lot of people, a lot of loved ones at that young age, including both of her grandmothers at that time. And I'm like, so now what's going to happen if she loses me, which is the closest person that's with her all the time, not taking anything away from her relationship with her mom, but daddy's little girl. She was with me all the time. And I'm like, if I'm not here, where is that going to leave her? And so that was the one person that I found to live for. And then also with the people that I was around, my family and loved ones that, took hold of me and helped to pull me out of that place, which goes back to what you were saying, which is support, to get me out of that space. And I'm definitely grateful for them to be able to get me here where we can have this conversation and be open about, the things that we were going through. And even speaking also about support, I end up having to go to bereavement support. Also, I joined a bereavement support group, because like I said, my mother-in-law, who I was very close to, and then my mom, 3 years apart and from the same thing, you know what I mean? And it was just a lot at that time. And so I had to go to, I joined a bereavement group, and I loved it. And so even after my sessions were done, I then volunteered and became a volunteer at the bereavement group, helping others and sharing my story with other, families as they came in dealing with their own grief and things. And so I love it, Mike. I love your story, man. I thank you again for being here. But before we go, I see the sign behind you, and I know a little bit about it, but I want you to give us a little bit about your program, and the Three Amigos. I think you mentioned you were working on a book. So give us a little bit about that, and I'll let you have the last words, but definitely tell us some more about your program.
Well, my program is about my life story. So I just the stuff I talked about today. I get into more stuff. I do workshops. I could do a 10-minute workshop and just do cliff notes. I could do a 30-minute, hour. The best is either an hour and a half to do my workshop presentation called The Three Amigos of Mental Health. But it's important to what the three amigos are of mental health. The first amigo is somebody that's suffering with a mental health condition. The second amigo of mental health is someone that's suffering in silence with their mental health condition. And the third amigo of mental health is someone that doesn't suffer at all. I go, congratulations, mazel tov. Great for them. But those are the people that need the bipolamin gum, or they need to know what it tastes like and what it feels like, so they can be more understanding and loving to the friends and family that they know that are suffering. And that's the big key, because when I was going through major depression, I was yelling at people. It was my disease talking. And a lot of people just want to stay away from someone that's mentally ill. Okay. And I'm sick of that. It's part of the disease, and it's hard, and you have to deal with it both ways, if you're the one that's suffering or not suffering. So I try to get the three amigos, the one suffering silence, and the one that are not, to all get together and support and help one another by being friends, amigos. So I am speaking all over from at clinics, hospitals. I'm trying to get back into the schools. The pandemic has made it very tough getting into schools now, still with the COVID, and they're not doing as many face-to-face, but I'm looking, I'm doing a lot of podcasts and webinars and starting to do more seminars, because I really want this workshop to go not just for mental health people, but even if you go into an Amazon organization, which is one of the biggest companies around, 1 out of 4 people at Amazon, 1 out of 4 people at Walmart, 1 out of person at Mercedes-Benz, it doesn't matter the name of the company, 1 out of 4 is suffering with a mental health condition that is diagnosed. You hear what I just said, ladies and gentlemen? 1 out of 4. Now, how many are suffering in silence? We don't know. It could be another 0.25%. That 330 million people live in the United States. Half of them are suffering with a mental health condition. And what is being done with programs? Do we have anything in the schools? Not really. Do we have anything that the government is working on? Nope. First thing in the budget they cut is mental health. So something needs to be done. And that's why I said, I wish I could be a clone, and I wish I can be cloned and go to all over and do it from a different point of view, a fun, relatable, different approach using props. There's my brain, mental joy. I throw things in the audience. I make it such a fun experience when you're listening to Three Amigos of Mental Health, the bad stuff that started my life, which I suffered in silence, and then how it's been unbelievably blessing for the last 7.5 years of staying mentally well. And I want to share that with my audience, because they deserve some other ideas instead of the regular, well, let's just take medicine, see a psychiatrist and a therapist. Okay, nothing wrong with that, but that didn't get me to the promised land, Ernest. It didn't get me there. It was doing the other things, having a to-do list, having a backup plan, having support. I wouldn't be sitting here right now, Ernest, if my parents, they were my biggest support staff. If I didn't have my parents, I wouldn't be alive. Unfortunately, my dad died 3 years ago, and my mom died 5 years ago, but I was their best sibling, their best son that was supporting them when they got old and they got sick. I was there for them since they were there for me. I had to do the line. It's like the circle of life in The Lion King. I had to do it back to my parents. So thank God I didn't need bereavement or anything like that, because I was very mentally well. And it's all about staying mentally well, ladies and gentlemen. And that is why, even if you had stuff in the past, in the pain, you can go further. And it's all about going further. Never give up. And I never did, even though I suffered for over 40 years with my mental health.
Man, Mike, I'm just full, man. I'm full of all your information. I love your story. I love what you're doing. I want to thank you, first of all, again for being on. I know it was a time, from our first contact until getting you on, but I'm glad that we were able to get it, work it out where you could be on and be one of my guests. For those of us those who may be listening, who may want to follow you, keep in touch with you, and definitely, come to something that you're doing, including myself. So definitely when you're in Chicago, let me know,
You did that on Instagram today with me.
Yeah. So anything that you have going on, but for those who want to follow you, what are your social media handles and those things and all of that? And again, I want to say thank you for being on, and I'll let you have the last word.
Last word, they can contact me, Michael Weitzman, YouTube. You can find Michael Weitzman on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I'm all over the place, and I can send information to you. My email, which is very important, email me, mweitzman, that's WEITZMAN, mweitzman3@gmail.com. You can call me. Like I said, I'm meeting so many people on dating sites. I didn't get into that. That I'm helping the women that I didn't even go out with anymore. I'm still helping them and their own children with their mental health. That's how prevalent mental health conditions are, even in the dating sites. So just contact me, 914-523-5766. All over. I'll send you my wellness tools. I'll send you all these amazing books and movies that you got to watch that will help you and motivate and inspire you, because that's what I'm all about, to help you with your mental health, addiction, and suicide. And it's all about what? Using the passion to give value to help others.
And you definitely have the passion, Mike. I'm so glad that we met. So glad to have you on. And just a tidbit: my favorite Robin Williams movie. Can you guess?
Awakenings.
Nope. Insomnia.
Which one?
Insomnia.
Oh,
with Al Pacino. And the reason why, because that character that he played was so different than all the other characters that he usually played, and I was just like, oh, I love it.
His favorite? You know what his favorite was?
What was that?
The one he didn't do one stitch of comedy. Awakenings.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look that one up.
Robert De Niro is amazing in that movie too. You got to watch Awakenings. You got to watch Good Will Hunting. You got to watch Patch Adams. You watch Patch Adams, you'll remember it's a similar story to me. He came up with being a medical doctor when he came out of a psychiatric hospital. I decided I wanted to go in the mental health field, not be a medical doctor. So there's similarities there with Patch. Robin is so in my life still. I got other pictures of him with all his roles that he had. And all I can say is thank you so much, Ernest, for letting me be able to have a platform to speak on your show. And thanks for being with us, making it a great show together.
No problem. Again, thank you, Mike, for being on. Everyone, to all of my listeners, I want to say thank you guys for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. And, you guys know our mission is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. So until next time, we will see you guys next week. Hey guys, I know you're enjoying the podcast. However, don't forget to join our text line at 866-326-0730. That's 866-326-0730 in order to receive text messages with new events and things that is going on and new episodes as they release. All right, see you in a minute. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.